Everybody, welcome back to Book Daddies. We are here to talk about some books. Well, specifically, we're here to talk about a couple short stories that we read.
And to be fair, these actually don't exist as books.
Right, that's
These
true.
are digital only.
Yeah, they're digital only. I believe they're Kindle exclusive.
So this anthology is called The Time Traveler's Passport. It consists of 6 short stories written by various famous authors around the world. And today we're going to talk about the first 2 of them, written by John Scalzi and R.F. Kuang.
Yes, 3 Days, 9 Months, and 27 Years is the one by John Scalzi, and Making Space is the one by R.F. Kuang.
Right, and they are connected in the idea of time travel and kind of how time travel works in this alternate reality. But other than that, they are completely separate, unrelated stories.
Here's the cover for the first one, the 3 Days, 9 Months, and 27 Years. And they all kind of like have this like fun, bright green cover.
Yeah. I liked this first one.
I did too.
I think it, so to just a brief synopsis without spoiling too much. Is that a word? Spoiling. No, I like spoilering.
All right.
Without spoilering too much, it basically is just about corporate time travel, which I thought was really interesting. It was a take on time travel I had never read or seen before, about how corporations would use time travel for commercial benefit.
Yeah, I thought that concept was interesting too. I also liked just the general way of telling this story. It's very different. It felt almost essaic. Like it was like more of like a informative essay on how time travel works and all of like the rules and ins and outs of it, rather than like an actual story. Or I mean, like with like narrative sprinkled in. And I mean, like any good essay has narrative sprinkled in.
Right.
But like this one, you know, it was like a very whimsical essay.
Yeah, I agree. And what was interesting as well is that it was not from the perspective of people who are time traveling. It was the technician.
Right.
So there's a technician who operates the machine and allows the clients to travel to selected points of time.
Yeah.
But we don't actually witness any time travel in the story. We only witness from the technician's perspective.
Yeah. And then or the reports of those that time traveled, of like what happened to them. And the reason why it's called 3 Days, 9 Months, and 27 Years is also really interesting. And it has to do with like the times that the time travelers can return to their present time.
Yeah, they described it as if you're dropping an object into a pool of water, and these are the ripples that are created through the through space-time, I suppose.
Yeah, and basically it creates a separate reality. So you don't like actually, so it doesn't change anything like in the current timeline. It creates its own reality. So if you've like watched like Loki, for example, season 2, especially,
or The Butterfly Effect with Ashton Kutcher.
You know, I've actually never seen that.
Oh man, that's a good one. But I mean, this is the whole idea that the butterfly effect is you go back in time, and if you change one thing, it's going to have dire consequences later on. Well, they basically discovered in this version of, you know, Earth, there are no consequences. It's an alternate reality, and so whatever you do in that timeline, when you come back, it's completely unaffected.
Yeah.
Which, for better or for worse, there's some ethical ramifications of that. Yeah. Right. But it makes for good capitalistic time travel.
Yeah. So the going back to the 3 days, 9 months, 27 years aspect. So like those are time stamps basically that the time traveler has to return by. So like they're there, they go to the specific place and time that they want to be in to experience it or try and change it or whatever. And then they have either 3 days to come back. And if they miss that date, then they have to wait 9 months. And if they miss that date, then they have to wait 27 years. And then there's like a couple other like really long periods of time.
But
like
it's beyond the human lifespan.
Which is just like super fascinating to me. Like I just thought that was like such a like an interesting thing. And it all has to, you know, it's like all multiples. So it's like 3 or whatever. You know, it's like 3 times 3 is 9, 9 times 3 is 27, etc.
I think it's interesting because our narrator, this technician, described that there's a few different types of people and how they use this time travel tourism. Like some people go back and they just want to try and, you know, they'll assassinate some dictator or try to like save someone from the past who was killed or something. And so they'll do that and they'll try and come back within that 3-day time span. While other people, they come in as tourists and they'll just simply want to live and experience a certain time period and they'll stay for like 9 months.
Yeah.
But then there's others who want a new life and they'll go back and they'll stay the full 27 years, or beyond that. They'll purposefully miss their 27-year return.
Right. Yeah. And for them, right, for the technician, it's a matter of a moment for them to return, no matter if it's 3 months, 27 years, or 3 days, 9 months, or 27 years. It's a matter of moments for them. And like basically after what I think it was like 10 seconds, if the client doesn't return, it's like they're gone.
They're presumed dead, they're presumed willingly stayed.
Yeah.
Like
which is like dead to that reality anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy.
Super interesting.
Yeah.
I think there was
This is why, by the way, this is so hard to talk without spoilers, because like it is such an essaic
Okay, well, that's fine. Well, let's do this.
I think like the only real spoiler is at the end for this one.
True. And let's not talk about that. For people who want to read it, I think that is a fun spoiler. Let's talk about this, because I think there are some interesting philosophical things.
Yeah.
There's this passage here that says, the politicians, activists, and philosophers asked these scientists how they would feel if people from another reality time traveled to ours and changed the course of our own history. The answer was, it probably hasn't happened, because our history shows no evidence of temporal visitation. But if it was going to happen, then it already happened. If it happened, we don't know that it happened. If we don't know that it happened, then the impact of it happening must have been so negligible that it doesn't matter that it happened. But it probably hasn't happened. Some reality had to be the first to figure out time travel. It was probably ours. I think it's so interesting because obviously there are some ethical questions in play. If you go to another timeline, another reality, and you assassinate someone, or you sleep with someone, or you just do things that you wouldn't normally do in your own timeline because there are consequences, you can go there and have, if you're lucky, 0 consequences, right? But that timeline has consequences. When you leave and come back to our timeline without any ramifications, is it okay to do that to other people, right? And that's kind of the question being asked here.
Well, and I think it also begs the question, did somebody from another timeline travel to that timeline and create time travel, or was their visitation the aspect that created time travel in that timeline? Like there's you can go down a whole
but I think the underlying message here is that is this question: if it doesn't affect you, then does it matter? Right? And that's a really important question to ask ourselves even in the real world.
I think so too. And then it kind of explores this further later on in the book. There was a client that left, and he missed the 27-year residence. And when he finally was returned, he was returned as a pile of his bones, basically. And it was suggested that 800 years had passed. And attached to him was a note that, when translated, said, "Here now is the demon returned to hell."
Right.
And that part stuck out to me so much, because it's like, what in the hell did that guy do to make him a demon to those people?
But then also, how did these people discover these resonances?
My theory is they witnessed his coming, popping out of nowhere. And they're like, "Okay, if we return to this exact spot."
True.
Eventually.
But then I also wrote down a note in my Kindle. What is it possible for someone from another timeline to return through one of the resonances?
Oh.
And I was like, what would happen if someone tried to come back? Anyway,
that is an interesting idea.
I enjoyed this. There's a lot of theoretical, philosophical, and ethical questions to be asked around this version of time travel, and I thought it was super interesting. And there is a nice surprise at the end for those who do want to read it. So
I thought it was a very refreshing version of time travel. I don't think I've ever read anything quite like it.
And it wasn't cliche either.
No, it wasn't.
Time travel can be super cliche.
Yep.
But this was not. It was good. The other one.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Making Space by R.F. Kuang.
Yes.
You're a fan of R.F. Kuang.
I am, yeah.
I've never read anything by her.
For that one.
This was my first experience reading her. And I will say her writing, she's a beautiful writer.
Yeah.
In the story, the macro story here, I thought was really great and had a lot of emotion and intrigue about this boy that our protagonist discovers having just kind of appeared in the woods. It's kind of assumed, and having read the first story by John Scalzi, it's kind of assumed that this young boy time traveled, right? And you kind of get that impression from the beginning. But the story is about this mother who more or less fosters this boy and is trying to figure out where he came from, and she's taking care of him. Despite her, her inability to conceive children herself, she's able to be a mother to this boy. And I thought it was really powerful. I thought it was really emotional on a macro level.
Yeah.
I had some issues with just like plot wise there. I felt like there's a lot of plot holes or things that were too easy about the story or not
Yeah.
explained well enough.
Yeah.
And I get that it's a short story, but I was not a fan of this one as much as I was the first one.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment. I have read the Poppy War series by R.F. Kuang,
Okay.
and I really really enjoyed it just through and through. She likes she likes kind of putting her characters through hell and like and making things tragic as far as I can tell, especially from the Poppy War in this story. But yeah, I agree. Like I liked the pacing of it. Like I thought it was like super well paced. I was very enthralled by it. But yeah, when it got to the ending, without going into spoilers, like I was just kind of like, okay. It kind of it kind of felt like some of Stephen King's, like, and I won't even say earlier writing because he'll do this even still in like his like newer stuff. Like, but some of his writing is like it kind of just ends, and it's an ending, but it doesn't feel super satisfying.
Yeah, I agree.
And like and that's kind of how I feel about this one. I don't know, but it was still enjoyable. I will also say that when I read this one, because of its more classic story structure, I was able to breeze right through it. Whereas with the previous one, like I had to kind of like take breaks here and there.
Okay.
Which isn't like, that's just like a style kind of thing.
What my biggest critique of this story was just that I felt like certain decisions made by all three of the characters, we got the the husband and wife and this boy.
Yeah.
Decisions made by these characters didn't seem justified or thought out or didn't have any good explanation for why they were being made. It felt very surface level, especially at the ending.
Yeah. I think the mother's, whose name is
Jess.
I think her decisions were definitely the most logical throughout until the end.
Yeah, I agree.
But like the father figure, I can't remember his name.
Chris.
Yes, Chris. And then the kid's name is Buddy, or they named him Buddy
because he wouldn't say his name.
Yeah, but yeah, I just kind of felt like he was like a very typical male character.
Who, the husband?
Yeah,
yeah,
just like very like
kind of an asshole.
Yeah, kind of an asshole, and kind of also just like oh, like there's this new kid around, like I'm not gonna adopt him into my heart or anything. Like I'm not even gonna try.
Right, it's a story that's been told.
Yeah, and like, it's just kind of like okay. Like, yeah, it was a little cliche.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, whatever. But I do think that like, okay, one minor spoiler from the beginning of it.
Okay.
Is the implications of the timeline that this kid came from. Like, cause like when Jess finds him in the woods, he's like got like a gas mask on.
Right.
And then he's like, the air is safe to breathe. And she's like, yeah. Like, why wouldn't it be? So like basically whoever sent him back in time like cared about him and loved him enough that they wanted him to have like a better life. So they sent him back in time to a place where like he could like breathe and play and be a kid.
Right.
The implication of like what happened in the future, because like this is like they sent him back in time from like their probably a not too distant future.
Right.
Post-apocalyptic kind of thing. So I'm mostly curious about like what happened during that.
And actually that is a connection between the two stories. Is in the first story, our technician narrator talks about how there's a point where humanity has basically set them on a path to their own extinction.
Yeah.
Right. And so we know that there's a future that, for whatever reason, we don't really know, like humanity's going to go extinct. And this boy's coming from that future.
Yeah.
Right. Which I thought was interesting. What I was a little confused about was how unsurprised Jess and Chris were by the implication that this boy came from the future. And it made me wonder. I was like, okay, so does time travel already exist in their timeline, or is this far enough back that they wouldn't have known about time travel yet? Because she was very unsurprised that he came from the future.
Yeah, they're just kind of like, oh, you're from the future? Neat.
So it made me think that, okay, time travel might already exist, and and like the public knows about it. The other thing that was kind of weird is things were.
I don't think the public knows about it because they were being very secretive about like with like their friends and stuff, like where this kid came from. And stuff like that. I think they were just like accepting it at face value,
which is
like super weird. Like, because like I mean, like we have like so many movies and stories about time travel, but like if you actually met somebody from the future, like I would be like freaking out. I'd be like, what the hell do you even mean you're from the future?
So that was a little unbelievable. I was not able to suspend my disbelief. And then the other thing I did not like about this was things were explained to me in retrospect a lot of times. Like I never got to experience things in the moment. It always kind of felt like it was being told to me. This disunion between husband and wife I just kind of learned about after the fact.
Yeah.
And I never really got to see that happening.
That is kind of like the way short stories go, though.
Yeah, and I guess I'm not really tuned to reading short stories that much, so maybe that's a me problem. No, I didn't like it.
Well, that's the thing though. Is that something that I wanted to bring up was like I do read more short stories, but like there's most of them I don't feel are satisfying to me. There's been very few when I was like, oh, that was a really good story, and I think about it all the time.
Yeah. Okay.
And, so I don't think it's a you problem.
Okay.
I think it's just I think it's because we're so used to reading long form stories that we're just not used to like the short form thing. And then also same thing with like our writing. Like we also both write longer form stories and that have like a huge build up and then conclusion. And whereas these, you have to get all of that into under 10,000
you're right,
words,
and I have to show some respect to these authors because that's a hard thing to do.
It is. I always struggled with writing short stories in classes. Like I hated it.
Right. So like props to John Scalzi.
Yeah,
that was a satisfying story.
It was absolutely a satisfying story.
And then on the other end, props to R.F. Kuang. Even though I wasn't really satisfied, it was still an enjoyable story, right? And that's still a hard thing to do. So even though I didn't like it as much as the first one, still like good job.
Yeah.
So
agreed.
Yeah. Overall, what would you, out of 5 stars, from 1 to oh yeah, what would you give the first one?
The first one, I'd give it an oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I just enjoyed it through and through. I thought the way that it was written was very unique.
Okay, I agree.
Yeah, just
nice. I'd give the first one 4 stars.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it, and that's good. I enjoyed it quite a bit, but not quite an oh yeah.
Yeah. Cool. The second one I'd probably give it like a 3.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I gave it a 3 stars, which is by no means bad.
Yeah,
it's a good story.
Yeah,
but it's not gonna sit with me. I'm probably not gonna think much about it. The first one I will be thinking about it long after. So.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you for joining us one more time. If you haven't already, like and subscribe. Throw us a comment. If you've read these stories or if you plan on reading them, let us know. We will not be continuing the series for Book Daddies. And then, but if there was one other story in there that you guys have read, let us know.
Yeah, let us know. We will, however, be continuing doing reviews for short stories.
Yes.
So look forward to those.
Not from this anthology.
Just not from this anthology. That's about it.
Alrighty. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.